And as a reminder, if you wanted to attend all three breakout rooms tonight, and of course you couldn't, we are recording all of them, and we will provide all of those recordings to you so that you can get your questions answered there. With that, it looks like maybe we have everyone joined who is going to. So I would like to welcome Michelle Barron and Charles Atkinson from the Cottonwood District tonight. They're going to be the first ones to share with you what their process is within their county to recruit fair board members. And if you would tell us a little bit about your fair, how you run things. You are in a district, but this is just covering your county fair. The same thing will be true of our second presenters, Krista and Jesse. And so with that, I'll just turn it over to you, Michelle.
I will do a little bit of that quick introduction. We are part of the Cottonwood Extension District, have separate fair boards, so we have completely separate fairs. They are only about 3 days apart this year. So as agents, we do try to support one another, but sometimes that just isn't feasible with events going on in both counties. But I will turn it over to Charles Atkinson, who is our fair board president, for his information about how they go about recruiting fair board members and retaining fair board members.
Well, thank you, Michelle. This is a tough topic for all of us because as we go through the years, some of us have been on the board for quite a few years, basically because we really love the concept of county fairs and what it's all about for the communities. But retaining people and getting the new blood is very difficult. With all the competitions we have now with the younger families, with between sports and kids and all the things that keep everybody glued to their TVs and to their video games, it's really hard to get some of them involved. But when we do get them, you know, you've always got some of those people that will actually come up to you and say, hey, I'd like to get involved in the fair, which those are priceless. But then when you find some other people that have some interest, you really need to ask a lot of questions to them. You know, what is your interest? Why are you out here at the fair? Why do you want to get involved? So I mentioned the last group, one young man that came under our wing is now the president of another fair in another county, and he was never part of 4-H. He came out, enjoyed just being part of the community, and we asked what he really wanted to be involved in. He liked photography and stuff, and we just found that little niche. And then all of a sudden, we've got a fair board member that was at every event that we were at. Like a lot of county fair boards, we have more than just the county fair. We have other events that go on. And it's just finding what that person is interested in. We usually, when someone is interested, we have a short interview period with them, whether we take them out for coffee or a piece of pie somewhere and sit down with them and just ask them what they're doing, or we just have a conversation out by their pickup and see what they want to do. But we're kind of looking at what their specialty is, what their interest is. We always ask, you know, why they want to be part of the fair, and just kind of do a little interview basically for their safety, our safety, and the kids, so that we've got the right person there. Because there's always a lot of people that would come up sometimes and say, hey, I want to be part of the entertainment committee. But they just want to be there to maybe meet the star. They really don't have any intention to help set chairs and do all of that. So you want to weed those people out. But on the other hand, if you don't ask, you just don't know if you're going to get that person there. Some people are just waiting to be asked to be part of it. So you're always looking and always trying to find that person. I know I have 2 individuals on our county fair board that when it comes fair time, I never see them. If I do see them, they might be out there buying a Coke, or they might be with their grandkids. But up until before the fair, those are my fundraisers. These 2 guys can sell ice cubes to Eskimos, and they can get us sponsorship money like no one I've ever seen. And that's their niche. That's what they like to do. And we're very grateful for them, because that frees up my time and some other people's time to work on some of these other events. As far as longevity, like I said, we're all getting older on our board, trying to keep people coming to the meetings, trying to keep them interested. That's difficult, and everybody is different. Trying to keep them involved sometimes is pretty hard. I know originally our county fair board, when we were first set up, we had an individual from every township plus 3 appointed by the county commissioners and 3 at large. So that gave us a total of 32 people on our board. And as mentioned to Michelle earlier, and with that many people on your board, we usually had some really good interactive meetings, but it kind of came down to also that there were 10 people that made decisions and 10 people that did the work and 10 people that warmed up the chairs. So, and I know everybody has that issue with their fair board. We changed our bylaws because it was not conducive to keeping things working, because some of our townships do not have anybody living in them anymore. So we had to make that little bit of change, and it was brought up in another at the other session. Always remember that your bylaws is a living document, and you have to make it fit your needs and what needs to be taking place, while not creating the good old boy network and making sure that anybody that wants to be part of that can be. So you're protecting yourself, but you're also trying to protect the fair for its longevity as well. I'll just leave it at that for now.
That's good stuff. And I think there'll be time for questions at the end, so we'll appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody this evening.
Thank you, Michelle and Charles. And next this evening, we have Krista Harding and Jesse Nevins from Neosho County within the Southwind District. And so I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with others from across the state tonight. And yes, Jesse Nevin just turned her video on, so she is very dedicated for fair board member for us. I will discuss just a little bit and then let her. In Neosho County, we are very 4-H oriented as far as our fair goes. There's not a lot of focus on what I'm going to call evening activities, such as a carnival or concert or things like that. They're really, the fair board in Neosho County wants it to be a safe place for all 4-Hers. You know, if they want to run around with their friends and maybe not worry so much about what I don't know what the right word is, maybe outsiders coming in, but they do a nice job of that. We have 21 elected members. Those are elected according to townships, and then we do have some at-large members. The fair board does try to recruit members that represent each 4-H club in the county, and there are 9 clubs in the county. Others can join the fair board by paying dues, and then they're also a voting member at that time. As far as the makeup of our fair board, I'm going to say it's a lot of 4-H parents, but then it's also people that maybe their children have graduated out and they do continue to stay on and be great volunteers for us. As a matter of fact, our treasurer, I think she's been the treasurer, I'm going to say 30 years. I've been in 23 and she was doing it then. So I think it's close to 30 years. Just, you know, we do have some very dedicated volunteers such as that. As far as retention in Neosho County, they meet on Sunday nights, which I'm not always super crazy about that, but it seems to work for them, and it has for quite some time. You know, we're not having a conflict with, you know, sports activities that people might be involved with, and so it works for them. The other thing that this fair board does is they utilize the GroupMe app, which allows for them to communicate pretty effectively outside of meetings and take care of some business that way. So as far as our meetings, I'd say the fair board has probably 95% of their meetings, they do have a quorum present. And so I think that's positive. The extension office has a great working relationship with the fair board. And one other piece that I just want to throw out there is this fair board has been very successful in finding grant dollars to fund a lot of improvements at our fairground. So Jesse, what would you like to add?
Well, Yeah, Krista kind of hit it on the head there. We have had great success with grants. Sometimes that takes the pressure off of some of your Fair Board members. You know, I'm the Fair Board member who is willing to show up wherever I need to go and get things done. But I am not the person who has the connections to go out and find the money. That's just not necessarily who I am. But I think we all just a minute. I think we all serve a purpose and have our things that we're good at. We are definitely more 4-H based with our fair. We've tried the whole activities at night. You know, other counties that are close to us have a great success with that. We just have not had that as our priority. We do try to do a lot of things that entertain the kids in the downtime between shows, which is something I'm really proud of in that sense. But I think with our Fair Board, recruiting is something we don't have to do very often. That's been very helpful. I mean, I've been on for about 7 years now, and I was recruited because I asked, hey, why do we do this and how can I change that? And they said, join the Fair Board. So when the opportunity came, I did. I started out just on there, and by 2 years in, I was the secretary, and I've been the secretary ever since. I think keeping those people on the Fair Board is communication. Communication is key. I try to have minutes out as soon as I can. Sometimes it takes longer, but I get those emailed to everybody. We use the GroupMe app so that everybody can stay in contact even if you're not at the meetings. And as much as we can't always do it, we try not to put everything on a small group of people. You know, everybody has something they can do at their role on the Fair Board, and working with the Extension Office has been great. Our 4-H Council is great. We've been very lucky in that sense.
Okay. With that, I will open it up to any questions that you guys might have for Krista, Jesse, Michelle, or Charles. And if there are no questions, I'll also give you guys the opportunity to share, because this is a roundtable discussion. We'd like to give some of our other Fair Board members or agents the opportunity to share as well. Looks like maybe Sandra, do you have something?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. For any of them is fine. I don't have a specific person. How close do you work with your 4-H councils? You know, Kelsey, you mentioned that actually should be a great working relationship, and establishing rules and policies and that jointly with your 4-H council and the Fair Board. So do you guys work a lot in that regard?
Kelsey, I'll jump in there. Charles and I were just laughing because he said the only time I interact with 4-H council is when I want a rule change and they tell me no. Actually, I am the representative. That's my role as the agent, is to be that liaison between the two. If 4-H council, we talk about, you know, I work with superintendents and I work with 4-H council as the representatives for their clubs. One of the agenda items in September, always is what went well, what do we need to look at, what would be some things you would recommend? And then we put that list of recommendations for any 4-H rule changes, and then we run through those. There are sometimes things that in that discussion are not 4-H changes. They're a schedule change. They're a request for something like that. And then that is my role, at least here, and where I was at before, to be that liaison, to then go back to the Fair Board and say, hey, we had a really good idea come up, may or may not be feasible, but wanted to bring that to your attention. One of the things, for an example, this year is, for quite a few years, our round robin has been on Sunday morning, the last day of the fair. It's the same time we're getting ready for the 4-H barbecue. They're getting ready for the auction. They're getting ready for, and as I told them, I really like them all, but by the 5th day of the fair, the first part of July, I'm really over them. So, not really, that's funny, but in all seriousness, my big thing was, and we talked about this at 4-H Council, was why would we not do, if it can be a schedule change, round robin, when the best of our showmen and women are on the grounds and we've got the public here to show off. And so I was able to take that request to Fair Board, say, hey, is there some time? I've already looked at the schedule. I'll be honest, I gave it my best sales pitch. But I went back to the Fair Board then. And so really that's kind of my role. I don't think I would ever be concerned if we had 4-Hers who really had something they felt strongly with. I would not send them to Fair Board without me being there. I'm going to take them just like I would coach them in any other environment on how to present, how to handle themselves, how to make sure that that is a good relationship and a good experience for both parties, if that makes sense. Does that help?
Yep.
I'd like to chime in on that too. We actually have council reps that are voted on by the council members to attend the Fair Board meetings. And I, as a club leader, attend the council meetings. We also have our agent that attends the council meetings, and we always have at least one agent, almost always have one agent at our Fair Board meetings. I think that kind of helps where I'm not, talking as a leader at a council meeting. The kids that are coming back from the Fair Board meeting can give that information to council, and council, and so with same respect, can give it to the Fair Board. I have found that works better than trying to get information back and forth, because our council likes to do things. I mean, they raise a lot of money. They do a royalty program and things, and they like to do things with that money that's going to help further their experience, or in 4-H or at the fair or in the community. So having us all on the same page at one meeting has been very helpful in my eyes. And I love that we have that relationship with our council, especially since, I expect to see those kids on the Fair Board one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we started having 4-H council members actually go to Fair Board. They do the presentations. I mean, I'm there too, but they did their homework, and I thought they did an excellent job. And it gives them leadership skills, meeting and working with the Fair Board and their 4-H families anyway. I mean, our Fair Board members are 4-H families, so it's not like they don't know these people. So, alrighty, thanks.
Okay, and I see where Katie had responded that they have 3 council reps that are voted on during their council officer elections that serve as Fair Board reps, and those kids attend the Fair Board meetings with her. Katie, will you tell us what county or district you're in?
Yeah, so I'm Wildcat District. That's specifically for Montgomery County, though. Something else that I might throw out there, Crawford County and Wildcat District, their agent's Will Morris. He has recently implemented a structure. He has a lot of tension, I would say is probably the right word, between his council and his Fair Board. You'd have to ask him for specific details, but he has a committee now. So his council gives him their list of changes. They have to submit their change ideas through an official form. And then the Fair Board can do the same thing. They submit ideas or changes through an official form. And then it all goes to a committee for a decision. That committee is made up of members from council, extension board, and Fair Board, and PDC. So he has, I think, 2 representatives from every group. And that group decides on fair changes collectively. So that's a little bit different system, but that's how he's been able to kind of branch some ties between his council and his Fair Board.
24 minus.
I can jump back into Kelsey. I would say that part of the reason that my take on it is, and Charles and I were talking about this kind of offline, is the Martin County Fair Association here also does quite a few other events that don't really have to do with the fair, that don't necessarily have to do with the 4-H side of things. They have several things even during the fair that are not 4-H events necessarily. And so part of that is the reason that I am that liaison. We are talking about, and I think there were some good ideas came out of this that we may look at having some of my council reps come in and make some recommendations rather than just coming from me, see what we could do about some of those. But I don't know that we will ever get, I shouldn't say we will ever get, I don't anticipate setting it up where I've got kids necessarily coming every month to a fair board meeting with me, just because of the varied focus that we do have here. And that makes it a little bit different.
And Michelle, I'm Risa Overmiller with Sandra, and our council members don't go every month. They just go when we collectively decide that these are some changes we want as a council based on what we've discussed from FAIR and what FAIR board brings to us. And it's just a back and forth for maybe a month or whatever, but our members don't go every month to FAIR board.
That makes sense. And I think we did have, it might have been the very first year that I was here. So several years ago, I think there was some presentation by our horse club that was looking at some additional stalling and some things like that. And so they did come in that particular circumstance, make a presentation to Fair Board, those kind of things. We did make a couple of changes with our 4-H livestock committee and our 4-H council this past year. Things had gotten perhaps a bit distracted in awards selection. And there were some folks had kind of gone off and done their own thing. And we set as part of bylaws for both council and our livestock committee that the vice president chairs an awards committee. Really, at the end of the day, our fair association is the one who is responsible for that. Yes, we can certainly help with the sponsorships for those. We can come up with some great ideas. And so they put a committee together of each of those, and then that gives them the opportunity to work with Inga. What exactly is Inga's role?
Yeah, she's one of
The doer of all things. Charles's wife, Inga, who sits on Fair Association, helps with a lot of the communication, takes care of a lot of that ordering and everything else. And so it has been a neat opportunity for kids to be really engaged in that decision-making process, working with adults in sharing their thoughts and their ideas on those kind of things, but in kind of a structured circumstance. So I guess we do have them working with Fair Board. It's just in a little bit of a different role.
Okay. Thank you. And looks like we've got I'm going to give you a 3-minute warning. We're going to have to go out of our breakout room in 3 minutes. So if you have any other questions, or if anyone else has something that they want to share about how you handle Fair Board recruitment in your county or district, I think we'd love to hear lots of options.
Kelsey, one other thing that I might mention is we also have Fair Board members go to 4-H Council. I don't think that was mentioned. So it kind of gives them an idea and perspective on kind of how the 4-H Council is handled as well.
That's great. And that really keeps those lines of communication open and really helps to build that relationship. And I think that's something that we need to make sure that we're remembering and considering, is that partnership between our local 4-H program, whether that be our Extension Council or 4-H Council and the Fair Board, really is about building a relationship. And we want to make sure that we've got a good relationship with effective communication between all of the parties.
Does anyone have their 4-H council in charge of any events at their fair?
Reese's probably being bashful here, but she's had them do a cornhole tournament before, and the 4-H Council was kind of in charge of that. That I remember. Was there anything else, Risa?
Well, the kids do a kind of like a fun day for each other. And we've done different activities. We've done like mud volleyball. We've done water balloon fight. I also, our kids do our food stand, and I really put it on our 4-H council. I'm like, you're the leaders and you need to be the ones to set the example. And we serve a pretty big noon meal on Sunday after church, and it's probably one of our biggest days at the fair, because following it is our beef show. And so our council members are all there and present and help serve that meal. There's a club that's always there to help, but I want them to be visible. Our council members are a lot of the ones who are there when we hand out ribbons and prizes. I've always been impressed. My councils in the 4 years that I've been here are incredible. We've had turnover. I had really good council the first couple of years, and I thought, how will I ever get another council like that? And the next council stepped it up. I'll also say that we host county club days, and Beloit, we have it in Beloit and in Smith Center. And I kept getting asked by our head district person, they're like, what can we do? What can we do? And I said, don't worry, my 4-H council has it under control. And I think she was genuinely surprised, because my 4-H council members ran every room. They wrote the checks, they cleaned up the rooms, they did it all. So I think it's the leadership position that you put those kids in, and giving them those responsibilities to be leaders and to do the things that you do. One other thing is at the fair, Saturday night is a big night at our fair, and it's the Ranch Rodeo. And since our food stand is run by our 4-H clubs and our council's in charge of it, last year I'm like, okay, how can we make more money, after COVID and all that stuff? And my council members at 4:00 decided they were going to go and sell burgers and extra things over at the Ranch Rodeo, because sometimes people serve a meal over there, but the fair board said, nope, this is the 4-H kids have a food stand. This is what we're going to do. We're going to support it. We'll send people over there. But my kids literally found a golf cart in an hour, came to the kitchen, started making extra food. And it was really incredible to see them come together and them do that. So I think sometimes it's just sparking an idea and them totally taking off with it and making it their own.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing, Risa and Sandra. And thanks to Michelle and Charles, and also to Krista and Jesse for sharing with us this evening, and to all of those of you who had questions or other ideas that you shared. It is 8:46, and we want to honor your time and the rest of our guests' time this evening. So I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and click leave room. That's going to send us back to the original room, and we will wrap up for the evening.